Hello everyone, welcome to Tom and Arnold Talk Movies. I am Thomas, this is Arnold.
Hi.
Today we're going to be talking about Skinamarink. This was written and directed by Kyle Edward Bowl. This follows two children who wake up to find their parents missing and the doors and windows beginning to disappear. A very surreal, sensory film with a loose structure that relies heavily on mood and atmosphere. Arnold, what did you think of Skinamarink?
I actually enjoyed it, surprisingly. I was very much aware of the reviews being somewhat like average to
Mixed.
somewhat. Yeah. But I think it all depends on how you watch the film and like how you sort of understand how you understand like the context of the film in terms of how to enjoy the film. And like I watched it on my own at night, and I think that adds to it. And like, environment really factors your overall heightened experience in terms of how immersed you are in a film. And like, this film is perfect for that. Once you're on your own, I feel like you appreciate it more without any distractions. And I think most of the reviews, I don't want to generalize, but it just seems to be the case of like people watching in the cinema. I don't think the cinema is a suitable venue to watch a film like this.
No.
I think as well, like, don't ever watch it with your friends, because when you watch it with your friends, you're more eager to point out the flaws and the fact that you're constantly waiting for something to happen. It's not that sort of film. But I honestly thought it was decent. I think it has a lot of like techniques that's been used to death before, but like because of this unique visual style, it's like analog horror, isn't it?
Yeah.
I really like it for what it is. What did you think?
I liked it. I don't think I liked it as much as you, but I want to come back to what you were saying about this film.
Okay.
But what I thought, I love the mood of it, I love the style of it, I love the atmosphere of it, and it's always nice when something like this, which isn't sort of your conventional film,
No, it's
not. It's very loosely structured. If there is a structure, but if any, if you know what I mean. But I think overall, it's too long. And the whole style of the film loses its edge. And towards the end, I just kind of got a bit bored. Because I was so... It's like I'd kind of got over the sort of style, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't really like it. And I don't think this film's bad.
No.
The middle of the film, I was loving it. Like, I really did love the middle of this film. But I think overall, it doesn't suit an hour and 40 minutes. And this is obviously sort of inspired, or I should have really looked into what Kyle Edward Ball did before this. Maybe he did some YouTube stuff. But I think this is the reason why this kind of stuff works better on YouTube, because 10 minutes of this would be fucking terrifying. But an hour and 40 minutes of this, by the time you get to like an hour in, you're like,
it's a bit taxing.
I'm done with this now. Like, I think if this film would have been an hour long, it would have been fucking perfect.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I just like the fact, I like the shots, the low angles, the side angles, not displaying the full picture, but giving you like an impression which leaves the audience to try and figure out what's actually going on. I think that's a nice little, detail. Like I said, this reminds me of like analog horror, like YouTube sort of stuff, and it's got that sort of like grainy aesthetic, that low budget setup, the picture quality, the really crap sound quality. I like the simplistic sort of imagery as well, like the weird doors appearing out of nowhere and disappearing, stuff like that.
Very lo-fi.
Yeah.
But I want to say something, because you said the way to enjoy this film, and I did something similar to you. I watched it in the dark, and I watched it with headphones on, and it was great. But a film should not be good based on how you watch it. You know what I mean?
No, that's true.
Like,
that's true.
It's like, I do think if you're gonna watch this, watch it in a pitch black room with your speakers somewhat up or earphones, and you'll love it. But then I did think what you thought. Like, if I was watching this with a friend,
You're just not going to take it seriously.
you're not gonna. I don't think you wouldn't enjoy it. But it's just like, it's a very sort of, you gotta pay attention. Like, if you don't pay attention, not that it's like complicated, but if you don't pay attention, it feels like you're missing the point. But that shouldn't be a way to enjoy a film.
I suppose, but like, I think because the film's a lot more subtle in terms of what it's trying to display, it's harder to take it seriously with a friend, and that's what I think is like. It's one of them. It's like, I'm not saying you got to watch it a certain way, but like if you want to get the best experience, then I think that's the best way in my personal opinion. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
of course,
I will say as well, because I watch a lot of stuff with subtitles. I think you do as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, sorry for people who are hard of hearing, but this does work a lot better without subtitles.
Yeah, it's better, more ambiguous rather than, you know.
I saw a comment, and I don't know if it was on YouTube or Reddit or whatever, and someone said, if this was like an art installation and you just went into a room and, you know, you couldn't have your phones or anything, and you just went into a room and you had like 4 screens and you could look around, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it works as like a feature film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think this would have been a lot better and a lot more impactful if we would have got, say, 10 to 20 minutes YouTube shorts, and then they would have combined.
But you know what? I think he was trying something new, and I commend him for that. You know what I mean? Like, fair enough. Like, to actually try and do like a proper feature-length film based on a certain style of horror.
Yeah,
like that's commendable.
I mean, the two. I mean, there's overall like 4 actors really.
Yeah.
And the two children, which was Lucas Paul and Dali Rose Tetriot.
Kevin and Kaylee is the character.
Yeah. And the parents are Rose Paul and Jamie Hill. And it's just their performances in a way are good, even though we don't really see them perform, if that makes sense.
They deliver what is enough, what is required for the film.
Yeah, you get enough from their voices.
Yeah,
and the fact that they are children as well is very well done. But like I said, I didn't hate the film, and I will admit, we'll talk about this probably now we're in a bit, where it's like the middle of the film really did have me. I really loved it. Once I'd settled in and I knew what was going on, I really sort of did like it. And there was one moment, which we'll get to, which I genuinely jumped out my skin. I'm not. It wasn't like it was like literally I jumped.
I was exactly the same.
Like I just couldn't. I wonder if it's the same bit. We'll get to it. But it's just like, so yeah, there is some really good creepy shit in this. But it's just like, as a whole, I didn't really like it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's right. I'm not really like familiar with a lot of analogs type horror, if this is appropriately called.
I'd say so. Yeah.
But I feel like this film, what I liked about like being a first time viewer is the fact that it leaves so much to the imagination. The static shots of the house where it's hardly lit leaves a lot to the imagination of anything being possible in the darkness. Because of the grainy look suggesting movement in this darkness, which, you know, it could be anything. You kind of imagine like a creature or some sort of shape walking around, staring at you.
Yeah.
And what I like about that, you're caught up in that moment, and then it changes to like a brighter established shot, and it makes you think like you're overthinking it, and that's what I really like about that.
Yeah. This, I wrote something similar because it's like when in real life, say if you're in a dark room, you're not really sure where you are, or whatever, and it's like your mind plays tricks on you. It's like, is there something there? And this film does that,
and with
as
that grainy like aesthetic, it complements that idea enforced.
It really does. It's like the way it holds on that darkness, and like you start to think, is something there? Is something there? And it's just like, that's fucking brilliant. The way he can make you watch something, and your imagination does what you do in real life. Is fucking brilliant.
Your imagination is trying to make sense of what you don't know, because what the fear of the unknown is, you know.
And it's a film which just makes it even fucking brilliant. I really love that.
I like it as well because there's a lot of like POV shots, and it's like you feel like you're the child as well, which adds to that sort of intensity. But there's a couple of scenes which I want to talk about, which really utilizes its sort of horror techniques very, very well. I'm going to start off with one particular scene. There's a scene in the living room where you see the TV pausing momentarily, and it's sort of it's starting to build tension up. And then the tape starts playing this weird sort of it starts looping this little cartoon of a dog sort of being like shook up, and like, because it has that sort of repeated motion, and then it's accompanied by this weird jarring sound, and it's like it acts like a weird crescendo. And like when I was watching that particular scene, I felt like I had to pause the film because it was getting a bit too much. And like you pause it because you want to mentally breathe.
Yeah, I am.
And like, but you're so compelled that you want to continue. And then when you sort of embrace that eventual impact, it turns out that it's just a toy dog disappearing, and you got worked over for nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that's so well done.
Mm-hmm, definitely. I mean, you could also say that as a negative though, because it's a lot of build.
Yeah.
It's a lot of build up for nothing.
But I yeah, that's true. I personally, I think it's intentional.
Yeah, but going back to what we said about the imagination, it's like your imagination takes over.
Yeah.
When I was really into the film, no, I think it's when that sort of, when you first see the window disappear, and there's that weird like synth sound effect, like I love that. I thought that was really great.
Even the Foley sound effects are so alien. Like when you listen to the children walk around, it doesn't sound like feet walking on the carpet. It sounds like something else. It's an unearthly nature about this film.
Yeah. And the going on about the sound, how it's a bit lo-fi. It's just like if you watch this with earphones on and you hear like the noises and the scrapes.
Yeah.
It's fucking brilliant, man.
God,
really fucking great.
I also love the fact that the film plays to its strengths, like in terms of how like the dynamics of sound and lighting. There's moments where like it's like a really short scene and it's like the volume gets really loud, like just for a couple of seconds, and it's like, is something gonna happen? And then it suddenly moves on to something benign, as if like it's teasing you. It's like, this is what. And there's even a moment where there's no sound, and it's like at that point you're like, you're completely terrified. You just don't know you feel so helpless because you're so distracted by what's going on. So done. It's so well done.
Yeah.
It's like a really sort of simple psychological trick. That's what I'd call it.
There's I think the film does a really good job of sort of making you pay attention to every frame, because you feel like if you don't pay attention to every frame,
you could miss something.
There might be something in the corner, there might be something there, and it really does make you look. And I'm kind of contradicting myself because I said I got a bit bored, but it when I was really into it, like that's when it was fucking perfect for me. I do think the only reason why, not that I dislike this film, but the only reason why I don't think this film is as good as it could have been is the length of the film.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I just want to say another example of dynamics, and this is something to do with lighting, and it's making objects look more terrifying than they actually are. There's a scene where you have like a shot of like some sort of ambiguous face. You can just make up like what it is, like, you know, with the eyes and the mouth and that. You think to yourself, are we actually going to see this creature that we've been sort of, you know, hoping up towards to? And then once it's lit, it's a toy telephone with a face.
Yeah, and the face changes, don't it?
Yeah. And it's like, because once you see the established shot of the toy telephone with the face, it's creating that false sense of security because it's been established. And then because you suddenly realise it's actually a premature reveal, that's when the eyes start to distort, and you hear that telephone ringing, and like, oh my god, that absolutely terrified me.
It's almost like the sound effects are the soundtrack.
Yeah,
if you know
exactly,
what I mean.
exactly. They all have a part to play.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's
especially
so
with the sort of cartoons playing on a loop. It's like it's like sensory stuff.
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
it
yeah.
really does sort of like, I can imagine watching this on like LSD or something. Man. Jesus Christ. The moments that really fucking got me, like when I was really into it, is when he goes into the room and there's like the doll hanging from the thing.
Yeah.
And like his sister like screams, and it might be a cheeky bit of a jump scare, but like that fucking got me.
It's brilliant because you don't actually see the doll moving, you just see it suspended, and because of the sister screaming, it's causing a chain reaction in you reacting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like less is more.
Yeah, very sort of like, it's a film. I suppose all films do this, but it's a film that really wants you to feel something.
Yeah.
Like it really wants you to get in that mindset. I haven't wrote no notes on this, but what do you think this film's about? Like, what do you think it means? Because I don't really have
a definitive idea.
I have one idea, but it's too, not that simple ideas are shit, but it's just like, and stop swearing, but it's like, it's kind of like, to me, this just seems like a child's nightmare. That's it. There's also a thing, Sarah. There's also a thing where we hear something like, didn't he hit his head at the beginning of the film? We hear something like the kid was in an accident or something.
Yeah, they say they try to sort of say it was something to do with sleepwalking.
Yeah. So there's another thing going into the whole nightmare dream.
But
thing.
The thing is, though, that could have took place after the film, if that makes sense, because there's a bit where the child, actually no, maybe not, maybe I'm overthinking this, because there's a bit where like the child like stabs himself in the eye and he's bleeding, and you see like blood stains on the door.
I can't fucking remember.
Yeah, it's subtle, man.
Yeah.
But yeah. What I think in terms of like the themes in that, I do buy the whole like, you know, it's basically a child's dream, but there's like obviously like he gets abused as well as the sister.
What makes you think that though? Because I didn't really get any. I didn't really get any. Like he's being abused. I mean, it could. I mean, they could. The parents could have been abducted by aliens. You know what I mean?
That could be true. But it's like there's moments where this creature, like, I mean, even from the get go, like when you see like the low angles and the side angles, is that the perspective of the creature? You know, like playing around and sort of creating this sort of fear in the child. And
but how do we know there is a creature? Do we see a creature? Because I don't remember seeing one. And you have
at the end.
Do we?
We see the face at the end. Basically, the child's asking, "What is your name?" and the creature doesn't respond, and that's it. That's the face of the creature.
This is another thing with this film, though. It's that like you've watched it more recently than me.
Yeah, I watched it last night.
But it's just like maybe it's not that memorable because you're talking about scenes and I remember them.
Yeah.
I couldn't like.
But it didn't leave a lasting impact.
But like, there could be a scene at the end which I think's at the beginning, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like there's no sort of like progression. Like I reckon you could take a bunch of scenes and put them together, and it wouldn't look different.
Exactly. I think it's very much like a puzzle piece. There's a lot of ambiguous scenes. And I think it's up to you what to make out of it in terms of what makes sense in terms of storyline and narrative. But I don't know. It's like there's a surreal element as well where you see like the toy house on its own, and like I don't know if you remember that.
No. See, I kind of do, but this is what I mean because it's so sort of like camera angle here, camera angle there, camera angle there. It's like, oh yeah, there is that bit. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
There's not enough memorable moments to sort of make me remember, if you know what I mean. Like, I mean, even if I had watched this sort of like last week, I can't remember when I watched it now. Whenever it came out on Shudder, I watched it, and it's just like, it's like it stuck with me more. The sense of
there's not
style.
really like a concrete idea what the film's really about. Yeah.
I mean, there is. I know Wendigoon has done like an hour video. I mean, he doesn't need a promotion from us. But he's done a video of like Skinamarink explained, and I haven't watched it because I don't like to really know what films are about.
Yeah.
But it's just like maybe if I did watch that video that he's done, maybe that'd be better. I think as well, Wendigoon did an actual interview with Kyle Edward Ball.
Oh, right.
So yeah, go watch Wendigoon, man. He's fucking good.
Do you not remember that scene in the film where Kaylee, the sister, basically she's being suppressed, and I think she's asking Kevin to help her or something. Basically, she tries to call to Kevin, and Kevin's just like standing there. I'm assuming it's a POV shot of Kevin, and like you see her, and then she's like suddenly contained because when she tries to call out, like her mouth is muffled, and like it's like what the hell's going on? And then there's a pop-up scare, and you see her face, and she's got no mouth and no eyes. Does that ring a bell?
Sort of. See, I don't know. I feel like I've fucking.
It's
zoned
to
out
be
the whole
honest.
time.
To be honest, I can understand because it's such a long film. There's too much in terms of like certain moments here and there. There's certain moments like you said, like the pop-up scare and stuff like that. But it's too dense.
Every single image has so many things going on.
So I think that's a problem itself, is that, you know, there's too much going on and it's not enough ideas to sort of put together to make it a simple narrative, and that's, you know.
I wonder if we would have done this, if we would have filmed this review a few weeks, say, 'cause I'm guessing I watched it about 2 weeks ago. If we would have done this,
maybe we would have had similar conclusions.
yeah, because like it's still fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
Whereas it's been a few weeks since I've watched it, so I don't remember. I feel like I have that image in my head of what you're talking about with the no face and the no eyes and that. But it's just like, yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe there wasn't enough. Maybe there is just too much, like for it to be coherent.
Because like there's certain scenes where like, you know, the pop-up scares really work well effectively, and then when that scene I mentioned with the girl where her mouth is removed and her eyes are removed, and it's like you don't even remember that, and it's like maybe there are some where they had a bit more thought and time going into a particular sequence, and then where there was like, we'll just put it in there for the sake of it. Do you know what I mean? It's like you got to consider like the context in terms of how a scene was made and what thought and, you know, consideration was for that scene in particular. Definitely. So, Skinamarink, man. Skinamarink.
Overall, I do like the film, and it's always good when like a weird experimental film gets attention. Maybe there was a bit too much hype around it, because I heard about this fucking while ago. I mean, I think it premiered like last year sort of time, and maybe I'd heard too much, and maybe the hype was too much. So maybe that's my fault, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, by trying expectations.
Expectations. But I do think this is going to have an impact on films that we're going to get, because recently A24 and James Wan, they're producing a film based on a YouTube series which is based on the Backrooms, if you're aware of that, you know, the whole thing. So that's kind of cool, and that has a sort of analog horror aesthetic, but I think the Backrooms would be a better sort of plot, because it's like this weird sort of extra dimension type thing. So you could probably do a lot more than that.
It's easy to digest. Yeah.
And the good thing about this is that this is an original idea, you know what I mean, where the Backrooms isn't, and like, because I'm sure the Backrooms like originated from like 4chan or something like years ago. Christ. So yeah, I mean, that's cool. But yeah, it's like one of them with this film. It's like you said, like you need to watch it under these conditions. Yeah. And I think that's true, but you shouldn't have to be in a certain, you know, setting to watch a film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's quite a unique film, really, isn't it? So
it's very unique.
It's like you can't apply the conventional method of watching a film without considering what the impact it would have, depending on how you watch it. So yeah.
I mean, the good thing to come out of this is that it's original. It seems like with the Backrooms film that's coming out, it's had an influence.
Yeah, it's paving the way.
Yeah. So there might be something that comes from this, even from the same director. There might be something that comes from this, which is amazing, and it's like the best. Because sometimes the first thing isn't necessarily the best thing.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
It's not refined.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to say it. It's not refined yet, but I think it will. And it's good to know that, you know, YouTube stuff and YouTubers are actually making decent films instead of fucking Airplane Mode or whatever that fucking
thing
was.
What is commercialized horror films nowadays? The Conjuring.
Exactly.
Stuff like that. Exactly. It's like you've got to take into consideration that these studios have completely sort of, what's the word? Like they're completely ignorant in terms of what the actual audience wants.
Well, horror has just become like mainstream horror. I don't like saying that 'cause I sound like a twat, but it's just like the mainstream horror is like
they're out of touch. Basically.
It's very commercial. Well, like you said, commercialized, but it's very safe.
Yeah,
and it's very the same shit.
It's formulaic.
That's exactly. Fucking you're perfect full of words today, my friend. Man. But yeah, anything else?
No, that's all.
No. Skinamarink, pretty decent. I think this film your enjoyment of the film might determine on the person you are and the stuff you're into.
Exactly.
So that's always good. It's good that when a film can be like, I like this, but I don't. I like this, but I don't. So it's very good. It's a very interesting film, and I'm looking forward to what Kyle Edward Ball is going to bring out. And you want to know something horrible? You know, the director of the Backrooms is 17 years old.
Oh.
Oh, God. Not good.
I hate my life.
Right. But anyway, we hate our lives, but hopefully you don't hate yours. And if you do, fucking sort it out, mate. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you in another video sometime in the future. Thank you.